Some BB, some Bobby. We're trying to let the good times roll here on the Sports Insider Saturday morning. Dan Kamal with Dr. Dale Yake. And Dr. Dale, one of my favorite sports journalists in the world. She's a great columnist, a great broadcaster, and a friend of not only USA Today, ABC News, PBS NewsHour, NPR's Morning Edition, but also CNN and CNN World Sport. I'd love to bring in Ms. Christine Brennan. Christine, good morning.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for making time for us today. Lots to talk about. Some women's topics certainly on the front burner of sports these days. I'd like to start, though, with a story. It's been a disturbing story now for several years, emanating out of Penn State, but certainly a major point of resolution with the fact that the ex-president, Graham Spanier, found guilty for not reporting that alleged abuse that took place in the locker room involving Jerry Sandusky so many years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I saw that news, that was in the midst of all this continuing, Trump fiasco, and most people were focused on that. And so I did put it on Twitter and said, this is important news because, wow, what a statement. And, of course, two of the underlings who took a deal, agreed to a deal last week, and they actually testified against him. So it shows the depths, I think, of the depravity, the lack of caring about kids, the unbelievable sense that I guess that they could get away with anything, that they didn't care when they heard the news about what Jerry Sandusky was doing to these kids. Which they were informed, and they did nothing. For those who've kind of forgotten or pushed it out of their minds back from 2011, 2012, go back and look how bad it was, and just how awful what Penn State did, and as an institution. So I think it shows the criticism was warranted. I was very critical. I remain critical of Joe Paterno and all of them. And now, Paterno's gone, and the other three are probably, at least one probably Spanier going to jail. The other two may. Who knows what will happen with them? But because they did take the deal, but it's horrible, it's reprehensible, and Penn State will continue to live with this stigma for a long, long time.
That they will. You can follow her at C Brennan Sports, at C Brennan Sports. She is Christine Brennan, columnist and broadcaster. Let's talk about the U.S. women's hockey team threatening to boycott. It seems like they may have had a deal, you were writing, on Monday, and then things didn't quite crystallize the way they had hoped. Where do you think that stands right now? Will they defend their world championship?
Well, this is all the doing of USA Hockey, and, Dan, the unbelievably poor leadership of a man named Dave Ogren, who I've known for 25 years, and I just cannot believe that Dave has gotten himself into this mess, and that USA Hockey is in this awful situation of going to war with its women's national team. These are some of the great role models for our daughters, our granddaughters, the girl next door. They are terrific. Every time we send them to an Olympics, they come back with a medal, the U.S. women's ice hockey team. And to think that they get $1,500 a year. Yes, that is correct. The equivalent of $1,500 a year is what they get paid by USA Hockey. As a comparison, U.S. figure skating pays each of its figure skaters at least $50,000 a year. That's just the beginning. They can make well over $100,000 a year with help from the federation. And now people are probably saying, well, but figure skating probably brings in more money than hockey. No, hockey brings in more than twice the amount. $41 million in revenue in 2014. Figure skating $17.9 million in revenue in 2014. So they make less than half. And yet they pay out, 10 times, even more than 10 times. Oh, my goodness, probably close to 40 times as much per year. So that's what the women are fighting for. They're boycotting. They're winning the boycott. I said they've already won because the USA Hockey blinked and did go to the negotiation table when they said they would just field another team. And interestingly, they're having a terrible problem trying to field another team. They're even going for high school players. What an embarrassment.
That's crazy.
To try to get high school players to play in the World Championships. They're coming up on March 31st in Plymouth, Michigan, and suburbs of Detroit, Dan. And so, and even the high school girls are saying no and putting it on Twitter.
Good for them.
I'm standing with the women's team.
Solidarity.
So, again, what a nightmare. and so easily avoidable, unfortunately.
Yep.
Christine Yake. I'm a physical therapist, and I run a company dominated, obviously, by women and a profession dominated by women. And those women generally were former athletes in high school and college as physical therapists. Speak to just women's sports in general. The participation level at the high school level is actually, I think, now increased women over men nationally. But yet we still see this gender misequity, obviously, at the collegiate level and definitely at the professional ranks. Where is it all going, Christine, in your view?
Well, I think Title IX is just reaching its full potential, Dale, and I think we are going to see women continue to have these incredible opportunities, and these young women who play sports, whether they become college athletes, whether they become Olympic athletes, professional athletes, or whether they just become the greatest people on earth, whatever they're going to be in life, whether they're mothers, doctors, lawyers, business people, journalists, broadcasters, coaches, some combination thereof, they will be better at it because they played sports. We'll have women running for president against women, moving into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, maybe more like the 30s and 40s now, and onward in our country, the 2030s, 2040s, later 2020s. Women as Democrats running against women as Republicans. Women will be picking women as their vice presidential candidates. I mean, that's how big a deal this is. And the common denominator, in my humble opinion, for all of those women and for all of those young people will be, as they lead our country, will be that they play sports because of Title IX. So, yeah, I'm kind of a big fan of Title IX, as you can tell, and really do think it's the most important law in our country over the last 45 years. And it is 45 years. Richard Nixon signed it in June of 72. And so we just are beginning to see the incredible blooming of this law and its meaning for women running Fortune 500 companies, running our country. We'll get 50 women in the Senate at some point. It's only 21 now, but there will be, has to be, because these women aren't going anywhere. I'm talking to you from outside a girls' volleyball tournament in Jessup, Maryland. I live in D.C., and my niece is playing in a tournament right now, a 13-year-old. And
nice.
These volleyball players are terrific. She is better today than I ever was, and I played all through high school. The coaching, the training. Today's the best day to be a girl or woman in America until tomorrow. And I say that even as some folks probably are still smarting from November 8th. There's so many wonderful things here, and I think, but it all stems, I believe, from playing sports and learning those life lessons, learning how to lose at a young age. Even if you only play t-ball or soccer for a year or two and you move on to music or whatever you want to do as a girl, you've had those opportunities that for generations we were only allowing boys and men in our country to learn.
She is Christine Brennan, award-winning sports columnist and commentator for, among others, ABC News, CNN World Sport. She writes her column for USA Today. Christine, Muirfield, and now the course, Kesamigaseki, I believe is how it's pronounced, in Japan, the course that's going to host the Olympic golf. Both are going to be admitting female members. Is this a step forward or merely kowtowing to pressure by those courses?
Both, if that's okay to say that.
Yeah.
Of course it's a step forward. And, of course, it's just crumbling to the pressure. Absolutely. I wish it weren't so. As I said, I'm a very positive person, and I wish that people would do the right thing for girls and women in sports just because it is the right thing to do. But apparently it takes some people a lot longer than that to be dragged into the 20th century before too much more of the 21st century goes by. And so here we are. Sometimes, as we know, change happens because people, smart, wonderful leaders do the right thing. And sometimes it takes getting hit over the head with a hammer to do it, and obviously not literally. But that's what this case is, and okay, so be it. It happened, and that's good. And I thought Rory McIlroy said it well when he was talking about Muirfield, that he couldn't believe it took this long.
He said it was obscene. Yeah.
Pardon me?
He said it was obscene that it took that long. It was fantastic.
He did say that, and he did say that he wouldn't want to spend any time with those people afterwards. Now, I do have a question for Rory, which I may ask the Masters. I'll be down there. If you don't want to spend time with those people, why'd you just spend 5 hours playing golf with Donald Trump, who, of course, publicly, brazenly bragged on tape, of course, about sexually assaulting women? So there's that. I'll throw that into the conversation.
I'm sure that's a question I'm sure that he will be asked probably first by you.
Well, we'll see. I usually let golf questions go first because I don't want to, I have total respect for my golf colleagues, and they get to. There's a lot of questions to be asked about Rory, certainly. But good for him that he said what he said,
yep.
And that's. But again, that I would say, guys, that would be. Rory was born in 1989, I believe. So he has grown up, and he's grown up in the U.S. in part, even though he's of course, from Northern Ireland. But any time he's spent in the United States or around the world, he has seen women and girls playing golf beside him. He has been on teams, international teams, where they've had junior boys, junior girls. There's great respect. So he grew up in a very different world than, say, Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer did.
Yeah,
and he's a Title IX male, even though he's not an American. But So the way he looks at women and the respect that he has for women is very different from a generation or two generations earlier. And that is, again, one of the great lessons and one of the great victories of Title IX. And if it's from overseas, whether it be Europe, Sweden, Norway, places that have always wanted women to succeed, is that we are, of course, raising young men who have only known that from their mothers and from the success of women that they've seen around them. And then that's my real hope that kind of thing just carries on. And, of course, how can it not carry on? Because those men will have daughters, and they will want them to play sports just as they saw either their girlfriend's wife, maybe their wife, or the girl next door, their sisters played when they were little kids. So it all feeds on itself. As I said, I'm very bullish on the future because of things like that.
Christine, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your time this morning. Congrats on Northwestern's great run in March Madness and first ever platform diving championship. Olivia Rosendahl at Northwestern. Kudos for that. Have a great weekend, and thank you again.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much. Look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks, Christine. Appreciate it.
That's Christine Brennan, and this is the Sports Insider. Dr. Dale and I are right back after this quick timeout. 92.9 The Game.